Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Monday, and all of our guests today, including Jamie McLennan, standing by, are sponsored by Basant Motors. It's the new year, new ride event at Basant. Looking to upgrade your ride? She's a sweet ride. Check out the deals at Basant Motors. Learn more at Basant Motors. BASANT Motors.com. Jamie McLennan joins us now. Noodles from TSN. Jamie, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Not too bad. How you guys doing today?
Very well, very well. We talked with Ray Ferraro about this last week, I believe. Thatcher Demko, though. And he hasn't been as solid as I'm sure he would want to be since returning to the Canucks lineup. Jamie, how tough is it for a player, in your case, in Thatcher's case, a goaltender, to join a team midway through a season coming off a serious injury?
It's massive. It's very hard. It's not only jumping on a moving train. Let's not forget he missed time last year and then probably didn't have the summer that you want as far as training because you're still rehabbing. So let's just park the injury. If you have a full summer to work out, get healthy, get your mind right for training camp, that's one thing. If you're still dealing with a nagging injury and then you've got to deal with that, let's call it up to Christmas, and then try and jump on a moving train. I mean, I can't imagine what he's having to go through. And he hasn't looked at his best. I mean, you have to go to Lankinen some nights because it just, Demko hasn't been the grade A Demko that we have seen in past years. When he's healthy, he's one of the best on the planet. The problem is even if he's 100% healthy right now, we'll call it, there's no guarantee that he's going to be at the top level. I always think, look at Pettersson. Pettersson is a top-tier player who's not having a great season statistically. So it's, you look at it, there might be years where it's just, you're not having your A game every night, or it's just not working for you. The challenge, the balance of it is Lankinen's played very well. And, he's kind of been your guy in the absence, but you have to get Demko those minutes so that he can try and get back up to speed. So it's a balancing act, and you're seeing some nights where he doesn't have his A game, and it's clearly, costing the team. Now, the team in front of him, it's a different story, but it is costing some nights where you're like, geez, I thought Demko would make that save, or he would have a little different approach on it, and he hasn't. So, I mean, it's clear as day that it's tough to move on him, jump on a moving train. And we've seen the evidence of it here since he's come back.
Is it less of a balancing act, though, right now, Jamie? Because we're approaching February here. It's crunch time. They need the wins, and do they not have to go with Lankinen simply because right now he looks like the better goaltender?
Well, he gives them the best opportunity. I mean, look at the other night's game. Like, to me, I think it is a balancing act. I think you got to kind of, and I'll say this respectfully, limp into the Four Nations break. And then everybody's going to have that reset because everyone's going to come back on the same level because outside of the guys who play in the tournament, everyone else is going to have to ramp it back up. So I think the best scenario is that Demko stays healthy till the Four Nations, takes a little break for his mind and his body, and then he ramps it back up with everybody else. You'll probably see a different Demko because everyone's going to ramp it back up together instead of him trying to catch up right now while they're playing games.
Jamie, if you've been in a ton of dressing rooms over the years, do you remember a scenario where two stars like Miller and Pettersson were both available in a trade? And if you don't, what does that do to a dressing room when there's so much outside noise? And these are two phenomenal players who could possibly get traded. How does the dressing room react to that?
So I thought about this the other day, and I have played on teams where top players have asked for a trade or going to get moved or there's some uncertainty. The only thing I can say in my defense is I played in an era where it wasn't live on social media. We're watching it live, right? So I would read about it in the paper. I would see it on the news, that type of stuff. But I didn't get to open Twitter or watch on Instagram and AI generated stuff now. So you don't know if it's real people talking or not. That's the toughest part, I believe, because you can't tell me that's not a distraction. These guys are living it. and they're living it in real time. And not just Pedersen and JT Miller, the players in that dressing room, because guaranteed their goon buddies from back home are texting them and calling them every day.
Yep.
There's family members, parents, brothers, sisters going, hey, what's going on? This is what I hear, because everybody's an insider nowadays. So I'm hearing this, is this true? So I can't imagine how noisy it can be. The best thing these guys can do is get the puck drop, because there's no noise while you're playing, because you just focus on playing. Everything else leading up to the game, after the game, it's very noisy. So you can't tell me it's not a distraction for the players, and not just the two players that are named and involved. It's for everybody, because everybody in that room associated with the organization has to answer questions regarding it, because they are, and I say this respectfully, guilty by association, whatever it is, the argument, the rumors, all of that. If you're in that room, apparently you need to know, and you need to know the answer and the solution, and what are they doing about it when you're just trying to take care of your own game.
Yep. Absolutely. Got to get your thoughts on the huge trade. Obviously, two big pieces, Rantanen and Netjes, two very good hockey players. But boy, did Colorado caught a lot of people off guard moving a real good player like him.
Well, and all I would hear from our insiders was Vancouver's holding everything up because they're not sure what's going on with the two-star players in Vancouver. Out of left field, it's Rantanen, and you're like, wow. I did not see that coming. Now, I'm not sure. We'll just talk about it, the information effect, because Rantanen's now doing his media saying, I was willing to take a hometown discount. They never really talked to me. All of a sudden, I show up and I'm traded. Nathan McKinnon, that all happened. They played in Boston, an afternoon game. Jared Bednar after the game, Nathan McKinnon after the game, like, yeah, we're sad we're lost. We're sad we lost that game, but this caught us out of left field. So that's a weird one for me, because usually an organization, whether we like it or not, will have a conversation with the top player and go, this is what we're thinking. Keep in mind, Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar are the faces of those organizations. Nathan McKinnon for sure, and that's his line mate of 9 years. Mm-hmm. And we're just taking your line mate away and not telling you? I thought that was a bit weird. Now, the only thing I could say is, he probably says to Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic, okay, you made the trade. This obviously isn't the last trade you're going to be. What's the end game here? Who are you targeting? Whatever. And everyone's, linking him to Sidney Crosby, and everyone's saying, no, there's no chance of Crosby. Well, there's always a chance until you say no, until after the trade deadline. I think everything's on the table. So it was a massive trade. It certainly rocked the league. And I hope it opens the door for other managers. The one thing I will say, as vicious and cold we could call Chris McFarland, you know who else has done it recently and won a cup out of it? The Vegas Golden Knights. Ask Marc-Andre Fleury. Ask Jonathan Marchessault. Ask James Neal. When they signed James Neal and said, okay, you can take a hike. Ask Peter DeBoer, Gerard Gallant. Like, that organization, they play for keeps. Now, if this has a trickle-down effect, maybe it's more managers take a look and say, if I'm close to stepping off the cliff on something, maybe it does nudge me to make that trade. But it certainly was a massive trade, I think, that sent shockwaves through the league.
And very quickly, Jamie, Alex Pietrangelo has pulled out of the Four Nations tournament for Team Canada. Tanev, Hamilton, Bouchard, is there an obvious replacement? Other names maybe?
I mean, Mackenzie Weegar. Yeah. What about Drew Doughty? Drew Doughty apparently is going to be ready in the next 3 to 5 games. Wow, that would be a nice warm-up for him to step right into that game. And, if there's anybody who would step out of injury and could jump on a moving train, I feel like Drew Doughty could do that. So I think there's going to be a lot of names thrown out there. It'll be interesting to see, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think there's a lot of players that are on the cusp of going, you know what, I prefer the break than having to go through this. And we might see some organizations that they can't do this, but, hey, we wouldn't be upset if you decided to skip and just let your body heal for a stretch run. I think there's a lot of managers that would kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, head that direction. I've always said this. Yes, it's a warm up for for the Olympics next year. But if you win the Four Nations face-off or whatever, I don't think that's a trophy that's going on your mantle that you're going to be telling your grandkids about. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, and we were wondering about Quinn Hughes' hand here in Vancouver. I don't, you see how heavily bandaged it is. So there's some question that, hey, would that be a smart idea to pass up the Four Nations? But we'll stay tuned on that. Jamie, thanks for this. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for having me. And I'll say this on Quinn Hughes' hand. If he has a chance to not go and rest, I mean, this guy is up for the heart right now. He's the only reason why Vancouver's sniffing a playoff spot. He's been ridiculous. He was unbelievable the other night. Again, it's par for the course watching him. He's an unreal player to watch as a fan.
Yeah, and that's with the hand issues. Jamie, thanks for this.
Yeah.
You bet.
Thanks, guys.